What's up, everybody? Welcome to the MrMaple Show. We're going to answer all your fertilizing questions. Now, Elizabeth, why do we fertilize?
Well, we fertilize to promote growth of the trees and maybe just promote it a little quicker than what we would see for what it does naturally.
Fertilizing is a great tool to kind of get that beefiness out of a tree, get a little bit of extra height out of a tree, but it can be a double-edged sword, wouldn't you say? People can over-fertilize, people can under-fertilize, so it's really important to get the perfect nitrogen for Japanese maples.
Very much so. That's why at MrMaple we have a recommendation. We recommend 15 or under on the nitrogen.
Yeah, 15 and under is going to give you that kind of perfect medium where you're not going to get that long leggy growth, some of that twiggier growth that is, can be I kind of deem it as an unhealthy tree. And what you got to think is whenever we give fertilizer, that gives a tree all of the nutrition that it needs to push that growth, but just like anything, you can overdo it, and that tree can think that it needs to go further and further, which doesn't give it that time to really harden and become more structural as that time goes on. And you can get, sometimes you can get an upright that looks like a weeper.
Yeah, it really can damage the characteristics of your tree if you push it too far with too much fertilizer. That's why, depending on the type, you want to be really careful how you use it.
Yeah, and 15 is a great spot to, hang out. You're going to get that growth. You're not going to push way too much. And the nitrogen is really important. Now, I will say something that you want to be careful with is fertilizing those variegated trees.
Yes.
Things like ukigumo, butterfly, all those white variegated trees, if we push them with too much fertilizer, they can lose that variegated characteristic that they have. And, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of having that tree. So in Japanese maples, it's always pays to be patient, but sometimes we can put that fertilizer on there to get a little bit of extra growth during the season, and that's okay, as long as we're not fertilizing late into the season.
That's very true. Our website recommends to stop around May or June. That's dependent on the fertilizer you use. We have two types. We have granular and then liquid or water soluble. With the granular, you're going to want to stop a lot sooner. You're going to want to make sure you read that instruction bag and count out how many days that granular will work for, and then add water so it does not burn your tree.
Yeah, so that's something that we use around here in specific houses. If we have a granular mix that is time released, that will last for 3 months, I believe, but you can get stuff that's, 6 months. So really pay attention to that, because as we know, maples are deciduous. So what can happen is we run these fertilizers way too long, and then that doesn't give the tree opportunity to shut down going into the winter time, which is going to lead to, frost on buds, which is pretty much a loss of energy whenever it comes to growing trees. So we really want to avoid that and make sure that tree has plenty of time to pull all that sap down to the roots and really go through that dormant period.
Yeah. And the same with liquid. With liquid fertilizer, water-soluble fertilizer, you want to read the instructions and dilute, but you can take that fertilizer and push it for a little longer because you're going to be adding so much water to dilute the solution.
Yeah, and Matt and Tim say we usually run liquid fertilizer up until August. And another thing that's important is making sure you have the right mix, because it's very important with liquid fertilizer or with granulated how much water we're mixing into that. Obviously if you're going to use granulated, you need to water a lot more. And if we're using liquid fertilizer, we want to make sure that we're diluting that fertilizer enough to where it doesn't burn the roots of the trees. And Matt and Tim have a little story about a customer that ended up putting a whole entire bag of granulated fertilizer, just the whole bag, right on top of the roots of a tree, which can cause a lot of health problems for the tree. Obviously, there's too much nitrogen and that sort of stuff to actually absorb into the roots. So it burns up and it dies.
Yeah.
And we don't want that, because we want you to have an awesome, beautiful Japanese maple tree.
And that's why you want to monitor your trees. If you're starting a new formula, a new mix on them, just keep a journal, keep mental notes like, am I seeing leaf burn? Am I seeing, you know, bolting, like extended growth? Am I seeing like just poor variegation? And make notes of that.
Yeah, guys, less is more whenever it comes to fertilizer, unless you're buying those branded fertilizers that are specifically branded to Japanese maples. Whenever you're looking in that territory, you want to be very careful, because that MPK, those 3 numbers that are going to be on each of the bags of fertilizer, can either be really tiny on some certain stuff, or, you know, most of the time if you're getting some good fertilizer, it'll be right there in the front. But if you're buying fertilizer tailored to Japanese maples, you need to be very careful and make sure that that NPK is actually close to 15, or that nitrogen is close to 15, because I've definitely been caught buying some 333 fertilizer, which you can't really put that on anything. So that's something to look out for in whenever you're going to go buy some fertilizer.
Now, if you're looking to go a more natural way, less than fertilizers, we can prune, right, Corbin?
Yeah, pruning is a great way to leave those, leave that chemical aspect out of the equation. Kind of, if you want to be more natural, pruning during the springtime is a great way to promote growth. If you think about it, a tree will probably push, you know, 4 foot of growth, but every single branch divides that up. So if we get rid of some of the twiggier branches, or some of the branches that kind of don't make sense or conflict with other branches, we can really focus the energy of the tree into those specific parts that we want to grow, which can kind of circumvent that need to fertilize. And that's something that's really important, is knowing that there's a lot of different ways to do things whenever it comes to growing trees. Guys, thanks so much for watching this fertilizing video. I know it's a quick little thing. Got Elizabeth here to help me knock this out. But thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, share with your gardening friends. I'm sure they want to know how to fertilize stuff. And yeah, we just really appreciate y'all. Remember to take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.